This is gonna be appendix.
Yeah. Is there anything we want to specifically wrap up with, or should I just find a good spot?
I did want to talk about villains in Ghibli movies. Just the fact that there aren't any... There's no obvious villain in any of the movies. Even Princess Mononoke, which, I think a lot of people would say that Lady Eboshi is the villain. But I don't think that's true. I don't think Lady Eboshi is the villain of that movie. I think she's the antagonist.
Yeah, I think that...
But the villain of that movie is never on screen. He's the Emperor. The Emperor of Japan. Or
yeah.
I assume that movie takes place in Japan.
Right, just like Empire in general is kind of the villain.
Just like Nausicaa.
State. Yeah. Yeah. Right, very much. And I also happen to... We just saw that quote where Miyazaki was talking about how Yubaba isn't really the villain.
I don't think she's the villain either. I don't think there's a villain.
A person who's struggling to run a business. I guess I rewatched it and I had more of a sympathetic view of her, but I still felt emotionally like she was the villain. So it was interesting to hear. Well, yeah, I mean,
I don't think she's a good person, but I don't think she's a villain.
Yeah.
Like, the only person she does bad things to, or, there's Chihiro and Haku. Who else?
That's true. I mean, she does kind of not care if Haku lives or dies. That was sort of the really cold-hearted thing that was having trouble with, because that was pretty villainous. And, I mean, I was wondering what Miyazaki really meant, because he said she looks like a villain, but she's not a villain to him. That's enough for people to be villains, sure. Like Disney movies, for example.
Yeah, they're just also, like, they're not concerned with being subtle about anything. I mean, the fact that he says that Yubaba looks like a villain, but that Zeniba looks just like Yubaba, and is definitely not a villain.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's interesting, because I don't think he meant literally looks like, but it was a translation, and I'm not sure. The thing. But also, right, and the other thing, but I mean, the fact that they looked identical was always really cool to me. Like, in a way, they're the same, and you see this at the very end, at least in the English dub. I'm sure this is the same in the original. Chihiro refers to Zeniba as Granny, because Zeniba tells her to, and then she refers to Yubaba as Granny when she gets back, right at the end. And I thought that I didn't catch that the first time I watched it, but this time I was like, "That is very interesting."
Do you think Zeniba and Yubaba are different people?
I think that whether they are or not, Chihiro sort of saw them as one thing, and that's what that was like telling you, like in a way that's presented kind of as naive or as like mistaken, but maybe actually it contains it. Like, it sort of shows sort of their reality. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's about the way kids see things.
And of course, you never see them at the same time either. I honestly had not really entertained that. Are
I
they
just
different
thought of
or
it.
the same?
It's not something I'd ever thought about before, but it's something I really appreciate about these movies, because like, whenever things are so obvious, I mean, I did my Bane impression earlier. I mean, there's no question that whatever his motives are, that Bane is a bad guy. He's the villain of that movie.
Yeah.
I feel like you're being talked down to in a lot of movies, and I think the thing I appreciate more than anything about the way that those two make films is they don't ever talk down to anybody. I mean, even when they make movies for little kids, like Ponyo, nobody is like condescending to you in Ponyo. I haven't even seen it, but from what I have seen of it, I mean, I do know that it's like a reinterpretation of The Little Mermaid, just from the Wikipedia page. But it doesn't seem like you're being talked down to, even in like the most kiddie movie of theirs. Kids are generally treated with respect in these movies, because
Yeah.
I think it's pretty obvious that Miyazaki respects kids just from even that interview.
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
He doesn't see them as being different from adults, except like they're smarter and more capable and generally have like actual freedom in a way that adults don't get to. It's the same thing. I wanted to talk about flight in Ghibli films. Especially in Miyazaki's movies. It's not really a thing in Takahata's movies. But a Ghibli is a plane, I guess, or a manufacturer of planes.
Well, that's right. Yeah,
flight is a really big common motif in Miyazaki's movies. Porco Rosso is about fighter pilots. The Wind Rises is about planes. Kiki's Delivery Service is all about flying. That's like the whole thing of that movie is flying. So what did you do to Hazmik?
Oh my god, she fell down. She fell down and bonk.
Oh.
Yeah.
Something terrible happened. Maybe we shouldn't record any more of these if something bad is going to happen to Hazmik every time.
What happened last time?
She was crinkling. You scolded her for it for no reason.
Yeah, that was bad. I had to re-listen to that and be like, why did I worry about this? It sounded like such a, just like, I don't know,
I'm
a certain type of asshole.
I'm kind of you're like Takashi.
No.
You're like Jim Belushi's Takashi.
You were saying something.
I'm pretty. Yeah, I was.
About
I sure
flight.
was.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Well, okay. Yeah, it's interesting that it's not really a thing in Princess Mononoke. It's not at all a thing in Princess Mononoke. Nobody flies anywhere.
Yeah.
It's very grounded. Spirited Away, I would say like the most important thing happens when two characters are flying, but otherwise flying doesn't really happen. Chihiro is flying on Haku's back when she remembers how they know each other.
Yes.
And they fly all the way down to the ground in like a petal formation.
Yeah, I love that scene. That's one of the, I think, truly most special scenes of any of the movies that I've seen that are Studio Ghibli.
That's one of the crier scenes for me. I cry a lot. You probably don't know that about me, but I cry quite a lot. Especially the last couple days watching all these damn
for sure.
movies.
I can imagine.
It happens when I watch Avatar 2. There's a lot between The Last Airbender and Legend of Korra. There's a lot of stuff that like gets me to cry. But yeah, Flight. It's like super prominent in Ghibli movies. Kiki's Delivery Service is all about it. Have you seen Kiki's Delivery Service? That's a good that movie is like the movie about being an artsy millennial.
Oh, really?
And like trying to figure out how to make that become a life.
Wow, that sounds very interesting.
Even though it was made in like 88.
Very interesting.
Yeah. That whole movie, it's another one of these movies that's just a slice of life movie. There's no bad guys. You know, everything that happens is just like, well, what if somebody was a witch and they had to move to a new town and find a job, like start a business? What does that look like? And that's something I love about it. It's all about flying. Nausicaa is all about flying. She does it all the time. It's her favorite hobby. The bad guys in that movie fly. The Wind Rises is about that movie's about how planes are beautiful dreams that get turned into weapons, like regardless of the creator's intent. Flight is just a huge motif in Miyazaki's movies. Even Totoro, the mascot of Studio Ghibli, even in Totoro, like Totoro flies. He flies with his umbrella or on top of his top. He has a top, like a spinning top that he flies on. It's a huge motif in these movies, all of them, and except for Princess Mononoke, and barely in Spirited Away. And I wonder why.
Yeah.
You know, it's especially interesting when like a lot of the motifs of Studio Ghibli movies are left behind for those two, that they become the two big ones.
Yeah. That's interesting. I don't fully understand at this point why it's My Mononoke is one of those two big ones and not one of the several others that we've talked about today.
I don't either. I think it's because like that movie came out like right before Lord of the Rings and the Star Wars prequels. It's like a big fantasy movie with good action, and somebody that people can at least pick out as a villain, and it has the good guys, and it has like the epic like god stuff with the deer god.
True.
And everything. Dude, Nikki the kid is going crazy over there with her catnip mouse. She's losing her mind. But I just think it's interesting that those two movies kind of are the least like Studio Ghibli. I mean, Princess Mononoke is different because it's crazy violent. I mean, Pompoko has violence in it. Nausicaa has violence in it. I mean, one of the like tearjerking scenes in Pompoko was just a raccoon that got hit by a car. Like you saw it there, like separate, like taken away from any cartoony stuff. You just saw like the dead raccoon in a puddle of blood after it got hit by a car.
You know what's interesting?
What?
I was making.
I don't know.
You don't know anything. What was interesting to me when you were talking about Pompoko is that it reminded me a little bit of Watership Down, which I just saw a Netflix adaptation of.
I've never seen.
The main difference it sounds like is that Watership Down is more of like a sort of a kind of a high fantasy written with where the rabbits are the characters. And it's a little bit simpler.
Oh, this is the one that I was thinking was like
Redwall. It's something you can watch an adaptation of on Netflix. That's pretty good.
See, Watership Down to me sounds like it would be like The Hunt for Red October.
No, it's like the rabbits doing their thing. It's very cool.
Just by the name.
Right, it sounds like
I'll
it's
have
about
to
a
watch that.
plane getting shot down, but down is like a place, like a. So, anyways, in that movie, it's rabbits trying to escape human development, but they don't fight back. They end up fighting amongst themselves because there's like rabbit social injustices going on, and
Yeah, that does sound a lot like Pompoko.
Yeah, but one of the things that's interesting is I don't know about the book, I haven't read it, but in the movie version or in the 4-part Netflix miniseries that was I think produced by the BBC, there is a tense scene that involves rabbits like dodging cars, and I was just thinking about this, how they could have had. I don't think even in connection to Pompoko. I think I was just recently thinking about like that scene. It seemed really improbable. All the hijinks those rabbits got into on that busy bridge, and none of them got even nicked by a car. Like it was just played for like I don't know. It was just played for like intensity and the threat of like seeing the spectacle of it happening was sort of like what was driving the scene.
That reminds me, when you and Jake and I were hanging out at your house that one night, we were walking around and we saw the fireflies.
Yeah.
And I told you the story of being on my way there and seeing a firefly that was on my window of my car dying.
Mm-hmm.
How sad it is to see fireflies die. And not even until just now did I connect that to Grave of the Fireflies. Mm-hmm. Which is a super hard movie to watch. Super, super hard. Do you know what the premise of that movie is?
Yeah, now I do. I didn't before today.
Oh, okay. It probably was kind
of
a little
bit. I don't want to. I honestly don't want to talk about it in depth because I stopped so that it wouldn't be more spoiled.
Gotcha. Yeah. It's a tough one to watch. But I don't know. What do you think it is? Maybe it's just something that I feel and you don't. But I was telling you I had been watching Brand New Animal recently. What do you think there's anything to the idea that anthropomorphizing animals? Do you think that makes you more sympathetic to real animals? Do you think that makes you more sympathetic to other people? I mean, there has to be a reason for it, right? Because people wouldn't do it if it was just cute. They wouldn't bother. It would just be toys.
I don't really know the answer to that. I think that if you
well, I'm not asking you for an answer. Just what do you think?
What I should say is I'm not really sure what I think because I think that a lot of the time today animals are anthropomorphized to, because it is cute. I think historically there's been a variety of reasons, spiritual reasons.
Well, it definitely happens. It definitely happens with no other reason than because it is cute. I mean, it's half of what Disney.
I mean, I think it just makes me think back to that quote that you referenced earlier, though, about cartoons are a form of escapism that allows certain types of reality or potentials for future realities to sort of sneak into the viewer. I think that sometimes when you're watching an animal do certain things and act in certain ways, like it's gonna trigger certain behavioral tendencies in you, certain possibilities.
Like the monkeys in 2001. Yeah. That's another thing all on its own, like the scene with the monkeys. But there's something about certain media that is centered on anthropomorphized animal. I mean, Winnie the Pooh is another one. I cry all the time when I watch Winnie the Pooh, or when I hear The House at Pooh Corner by friggin' Kenny Loggins. Or that Christopher Robin movie that came out was like, I was just bawling the whole time. Not for any good reason. It's not like a super sad movie most of the time. It's kind of sad, but I mean, nothing sad really happens in Winnie the Pooh either. But I don't know why the stuff like this has such emotional resonance with me.
Sometimes for me, just nostalgia can make me cry. I think back to that quote from Miyazaki talking about tears coming to his eyes being in that place that he was referring to, which was like a historically preserved Japanese village with architecture that was a mix of Western and Japanese characteristics. And just like that being nostalgic for him, using it in his movies, it brings tears to his eyes. I think that I relate to that a lot of the time, something that I just have a personal connection to. And maybe it's not even really a nostalgia. Like, it doesn't have to be a deep past connection. Just something that I really feel and that really takes me back to, a lot of the time, this sort of the ghost of the first time I heard it is always there when I heard it or saw it. The ghost of the first time I experienced whatever it is like there. That's a lot of the time when I'm gonna have tears in my eyes. It's like there's a presence that connects me to every time I've heard it outside of any kind of real feeling of time.
I think you would really get a lot out of Only Yesterday. I don't know if that's available on HBO now.
I will check. I do want to watch it. You've really sold it during this conversation.
I've only seen it the one time. I saw it only yesterday. It was just such a great movie. Unfortunately I don't think there's a lot more that we can say about.
No, we should wrap it up soon because I wanna work early tomorrow. But.
Yeah, I've spent almost my entire day at the computer, and I'm ready to go and sit in some other chair.
Gaze in some other horizon.
But we do have some appendix to record.
I just wanted to talk about animism for 5 minutes.
Yeah, I wanna like. Maybe we should do this off recording, but I want to talk about the episode we just recorded and what the next couple of episodes are going to look like. But
we should probably do that
off recording. But I also want to talk about animism.
So, earlier you said that you were talking about Miyazaki saying he doesn't believe in Shinto, but that that it's sort of the presence of Shinto is in him or something like that. I'm paraphrasing.
Yeah, he doesn't practice Shinto, but he believes in animism. Okay. Yeah, is the gist of it.
Yeah. And you said that you were somewhere around that too, and I think I am too.
Yeah, I don't know enough about Shinto to say that I'm like a believer. But one thing, especially over the past couple of years, because like I think it's safe to say that like you don't really do any growing up. From 0 to 18, like all you do is get bigger. It's like when you become an adult and you have to spend time on your own and figure out problems in the world, and that's when you get confronted with like, what do you believe and all this. And like something I've been thinking about a lot the last couple of years, anytime it happens, is like, if I kill a bug, right? Sometimes you just do it for no reason. Like, it's really like it's like a perfect example of cruelty, right? To like step on an ant. Is it a nest?
Anthill.
An anthill. That's what I'm looking for. Like sometimes you just do it to be cruel, without even thinking about it. You're like, well, I don't want these ants to get up the stairs and into the house, so I'm gonna step on this. And that's the only reason, is because like you don't want to deal with them later, so you just kill them now.
Yeah.
Or like, I was just gonna say that like I got stung by a bee the other day. I've never been stung by a bee before. I spent 10 years in the Scouts. I never got stung by a bee. But it happened the other day. And when I got stung, I was thinking, like, why did that happen? And the reason it happened is because while I was watering the garden, I friggin' stuck the hose into the bee hole in the ground and flooded them. Mm-hmm. That's why I got stung by a bee. Like, they didn't do it for no reason. They did it because I was cruel. So it's something I think about, like, a lot when things happen in nature. I mean, we were talking about whether or not I should make friends with a bear that's been spotted nearby. And I was like, I don't know why I was so opposed to it. I mean, obviously, I don't think I could actually befriend a bear. But like, it just makes you think about your relationship as a human to the world around you, and like you're exposed to Shinto. And I think a lot. I feel like we learned in school about some belief systems from across Africa that are animistic. Yes. So it's this thing that we associate with cultures, and I suppose, unfortunately, it ties into the white narrative of the noble savage.
Yeah.
But it's indigenous American peoples. We always think of animal gods. Africa, I think a lot of times we imagine them as having like one set of beliefs and one religion, despite being more than 1 billion people. But I associate them with animal gods as well. The Japanese I associate with animal gods. The Chinese. I mean, I don't really know much about like Southeast Asia and everything, but I just like the older I get, and like I've been spending more time in nature recently. Something I've been doing lately is just like trying to make sure I walk barefoot.
Yeah, I love that.
Outside. Like I've been trying to like put less distance in my life between me and
I wanted to touch on a couple of things you said, because you said a lot. The bug thing. Today I was on the phone trying to make a call while I was working, and there was a bug on my leg, and unconsciously I just swiped my hand and crushed it, and I could see like its leg moving, like still. Even though it was tiny, I could barely see it, but I could see its leg moving. I wouldn't do it to a squirrel.
Do it to a squirrel.
The other thing is, I've been trying to not kill bugs. and not freak out. I've come a long way with things like yellow jackets, wasps. The wasp landed on me yesterday. I just waited for it to leave. The wasp was around me today. It went away. Mosquitoes. A mosquito bit me on the leg today. If I had been like, if my hand had been near my leg, I might have just swatted it before I could have stopped myself. But I've been trying to even change my tune with mosquitoes, like, and that's a really, really tough one. So I brought it outside. I did.
I think mosquitoes are maybe a different story. Because
I'm driving towards something here. I mean, maybe they are because of disease.
Okay, well, not even that, but like,
yeah,
the mosquito like bit you. It
it
attacked you. I mean, the mosquito wouldn't hesitate to kill you.
The mosquito will never kill me though. It's effortless to kill. I could kill 10 mosquitoes by accident.
Well, that's the thing. Like, if you just kill the mosquito on the counter, yeah, exactly. But like, if you just kill a mosquito on the counter that's like sucking on some, like,
but it's not gonna. It just wants my blood.
That's shitty. Yeah. Well, I'm saying though, like, if you kill a mosquito that didn't attack you, that's one thing. Self-defense is.
Well, here's what I'm driving toward, though.
I mean,
maybe that's true.
Yeah, hit me.
But what I've realized is that but it's like the question is, why do I want to kill the mosquito? And this is where I started to notice certain things. When I'm outside, there's so much that's just shorthand. The tickling of my leg hairs means something different than while I'm sitting in this chair than it does when I'm outside. When I feel a single mosquito on me outside bite me, of course all of my other mosquito bites are suddenly lighting up. That's not something that I have control over. It just kicks in. But also, if I'm even worried about a mosquito biting me, whether or not one has, the tickling on my hairs is going to prompt me to swat and itch. And if you think about how little sense it makes to start scratching at my legs when I think there might be a mosquito landing on me, it's a response that doesn't do anything, that usually is reserved for, like, so I thought, for scratching the bite, because that provides a few seconds of relief. But to scratch in response to the threat of maybe a mosquito landing on your leg, all that does is make your bites itch. And then when your bites itch, maybe you're on a walk, you go a few minutes, you come back, you didn't actually get bit by a mosquito, but now you're itchy. Or maybe you do start attracting mosquitoes and you start swatting at them, and now you're killing mosquitoes based on the pain that you're feeling from bites that other mosquitoes gave you. So you see what I'm saying? What I realized is that I have a lot more control over my enjoyment, like over my like comfort in nature, than I thought I do, and it has very little to do with mosquitoes actually biting me at the time that I'm out there. The hardest part still, though, is I can't sit there and I haven't done this. I'm thinking I should try. I can't sit there and watch a mosquito land on my arm and bite me without, like, I've never, like, I don't think I'm there yet. But that's kind of where I want to get to. I think that if I can, I'm not saying I'm going to do that. Sit out there and watch it happen over and over again. But I think if I can get to that point, it's going to help me sort of undo a lot of this weird mosquito shit that happens that actually just keeps me or anybody else in a state of constant, like, mild but constant anxiety when I think that they're going to bite me.
Yeah, for me, I think having pets has had a lot to do with changing how I feel about wildlife. Because I was never around animals ever. Like, the biggest memories I have about animals before I got my cat Marissa, and when she passed away, I got Big Ben and Nicky the kid here. My only real memories of animals were that my mom said, "You don't go near dogs. I got bit by a dog when I was little. Dogs bite, and they're gonna hurt you." There was that from, like, the time as far back as I can remember. That's what that's the knowledge I had of dogs. And well, shit. Oh, I got attacked at Grandpa Bob's I had food in my hand for like the emus or whatever they had there, and they swarmed me, and I was like alone away from my parents, terrified. I was getting like swarmed by these raptors. Those are like the two like only distinct memories I had of animals before I got my cat. And I think just having a pet has like brought me closer to where I want to be with regards to the natural world. Because I think just as a person, like we choose to separate ourselves from nature. I mean, I don't think it's necessarily good the way that necessarily good. I don't think it's good at all the way that we live now in quote unquote a modern society. I mean, I always think like how much nicer it would be to build a house on land that anybody else could build a house on, without having to worry about
property,
water rights and property tax. And it's just not the world we live in. It's probably not a world I could survive in, honestly. I mean, I don't think I could figure out how to build a saw out in the woods if I needed to. But I don't know, part of me thinks like if I can't do that, then what am I doing here? Like, part of me like truly does believe in survival of the fittest, like with regards to how the world should be with me. But I don't know, like, but then you take such like care of your animals. Like if you're like good at all as a person when you have pets, you take like such good care of your animals. It conflicts. Like I treat my animals, or I try to treat my animals the way that the world treats me, regardless of whether or not I really want to be treated that way. I mean, think about this. Like if I had to live without my glasses, I'd be done. I would have died so many times. Every time I got lost in the woods in Venture Crew, I wouldn't have made it probably.
So that's why your cats have glasses.
Yeah, that's why I slip their contacts in every morning. But like I spent so much time like being when my cat Marissa got sick before she died. Like I spent so long like taking care of her and like making sure she had the special kidney food she needed, and like you're not gonna get up there on your own, so I'm gonna help you get up there, and I'm gonna help you get down and all this. And like, is that what you should be doing? I listened to a podcast yesterday, and they always do a question segment at the end. Shout out to the Dead End Hip Hop Podcast. They asked like somebody had their first pet die on them, and all the hosts were, no, well it's really hard, and all you can do is take time and find another animal that you love, and that's how you move on. And one of the guys was like, no, you put them in the car, you drive them out to the woods, and you leave them there. And I was like, well, maybe that's right. I don't know, but I don't think Ghibli movies influence me at all in terms of being somebody that believes in animism and in doing the best I can to like override my instincts to respect nature. What I think they have done is like, every time now I think like why shouldn't I like thank the tree for giving me shade, or anything like that. Like why shouldn't I appreciate the sun for
absolutely
gracing me with vitamin D?
Yeah, I've gotten to a point where it started out as a quiet thing that I would do in my head, but I tend to like address trees. Not so much that I don't usually do it aloud unless I'm like with somebody who like I really know, but I'll think it. I'll think like if I'm doing something that involves interacting, with really could be anything. Usually it's going to be something that I perceive as alive, but yeah, I mean, not necessarily though. I've started to sort of, I don't know, sort of feel.
Yeah.
I'm not really sure what I'm trying to say. Part of it's just that I'm a little bit uncomfortable articulating it because it feels like I've just, been told it's silly or whatever.
Well, it's a completely personal thing, and those are the hardest things to articulate. I mean, it's like I think it's different than talking about being a Christian.
Oh yeah.
Where there's doctrine and there's practices that we know about. I mean, we're right now we're talking about like our personal relationship with the world around us and like how that affects us. And I was talking about the next time the spring planting season comes around, I want to do a Three Sisters garden instead of just planting the stuff I want to eat. Like I planted all kinds of things, and most of them didn't work out. I planted onions because I like onions, and I grew one. I planted tomatoes, and the tomatoes are coming okay.
You gotta get some cages or poles or.
I broke some limbs off a tree branch that fell, and I'm using those to hold them up. But those, like, I'm growing those. But then, like, I just wound up with some packets of radish seeds and lettuce, and I planted those, and they're growing great. But I really want to do the Three Sisters garden, not because like I don't really like beans, I don't really like I'm not a lover of squash, but those three plants, like the way they interact, like they support each other, they encourage the growth of each other, and like regardless of whether or not it's for me, like I think it is good to be a steward of plants. Yeah.